Welcome to Shadow of Truth, and today is Tuesday, May the 16th, 2017, and your hosts are Rory Hall from thedailycoin.org and Dave Kranzler from investmentresearchdynamics.com. Dave, what's going on?
Well, I have a feeling we're probably going to talk about what's going on in the gold market, and I just wanted to say up front there was a article posted on Zero Hedge yesterday for them to help boost their views and propagate fear porn. The headline said hedge funds dumped gold long positions at a record rate. Well, the flip side to that is that the bullion banks covered their short positions at a record rate, and that's a much more significant side of the trade because the bullion banks are right 95% of the time when they take a position, and the hedge funds are wrong 95% of the time. And even more interestingly, and this happened in both gold and silver, the hedge funds dumped a massive amount of long positions, and they started going short again. And that usually has been the signal over the last couple of years that we're at a market bottom and we're getting ready to go into a rip-roaring move higher. Because what happens is the hedge funds get short, and then they have to start covering, and it pushes the market higher.
Well, that sounds good to me.
That's what I think.
Gold going higher, silver going higher. Well, that'd be a nice summer treat.
Right. And in the face of just really horrible sentiment. So once again, bad sentiment will prove to be a contrarian indicator, as will the way the hedge funds are trading this.
Not only the sentiment's bad, but we've got all these markets opening up all over the world, everywhere except in the West. And good time to have gold.
Well, now that you opened that door, let's walk through it and talk about it.
Well, all righty then. You know, over the course of the past month or so, we've learned about Moscow and Russia opening up these new gold markets that are for the specific purpose of assisting the other BRICS nations, and that includes Mexico. Even though Mexico is not officially a member of the BRICS, they've been talking with them for a number of years, and I actually wrote an article that I never published about 5 years ago, where they had began the dialogue with Mexico to join the BRICS. And it's these two markets that are opening up, one in Beijing and one in Moscow, are for the purpose of helping these other nations to acquire gold. That's their purpose. And you have the Dubai metals exchange that's going to, or metals commodities market, something I can't remember exactly what it is, but they are opening up this market that's going to be tied to the Shanghai Gold Exchange. The new Moscow and Beijing markets are going to be tied to the gold, to the Shanghai Gold Exchange. And the Dubai market is for the specific purpose of addressing the change in Sharia law, where Muslims can now acquire more gold, and that's huge. And then you were telling me about this new Hong Kong exchange. What's going on with that?
Well, it was one of my subscribers sent me a link. Otherwise, I probably would have missed this article. But China is getting ready to roll out a new gold contract that is going to be physically settled in renminbi and in US dollars. So there'll be two contracts. One settles in offshore renminbi, and one settles in US dollars. So when they say physical settlement, it means if you're short a futures contract, you have to have the ability to settle that contract with actual kilo bars. And there's a whole set of hoops you have to jump through in order to demonstrate that you have the ability to settle these contracts.
Unlike the Comex.
Oh no, the Comex isn't a physical settlement exchange. The Comex is a dollar fiat currency settlement exchange, and the LBMA has transitioned into largely that as well. I mean, the physical settlement exchange or exchanges are, as you pointed out, the one that's in Dubai and obviously the one that's in Shanghai. This contract is going to be issued by an entity called Hong Kong Exchanges and Clearing Limited. I haven't researched it enough, but it's somehow tied into the London Metals Exchange, which is different from the LBMA. So, and what's interesting about this contract, there's going to be position limits. So if you, in the spot month, so that would be the month, the most immediate month in which delivery is required, there's a 10,000 contract limit. And then in all the other months, there's a 20,000 contract limit. Now, my reading of the term sheet for this contract leads me to believe that there's going to be room for some manipulation. Like, I think these banks, these Western banks, could come in here and short up to the maximum amount of 20,000 contracts, and then get out of the contract before they're required to delivery. The underlying gold is a kilo bar, which is the preferred bar over in the Eastern Hemisphere, as opposed to the 100-ounce Comex bar or the 400-ounce LBMA bar. And I'm not exactly sure in terms of what it means when they say, you have to be associated with an approved depository. So there's some provisions in this contract that there's probably, they can probably be clarified, but it does still allow for a little bit of a shell game going on between making delivery or moving bars within a vault and saying that it was delivered, or pretending to move bars within a vault and saying it was delivered, like happens on the Comex and on GLD, and with GLD and SLV. So, but this contract potentially, if it operates the way it's laid out on paper, will put a dent in the ability of the Western banks to manipulate the gold market using paper contracts. Yeah, because this does, at the end of the day, most Comex contracts settle in cash, and they don't even settle. What happens is the hedge funds roll them forward. They don't even. No one stands for delivery on the Comex. Maybe in any given delivery month, maybe 1% to 2% of the open interest is actually, the peak open interest is actually settled with physical delivery. If in fact the physical delivery aspect even takes place. The only way we know if that ever takes place is if the physical metal leaves the Comex vaults and goes somewhere else. In this particular contract, you're short a contract, you got to deliver. But you're short a contract by the cutoff date. You got to deliver kilo bars to the other side.
10,000 of them.
If you're short 10,000 contracts, yeah.
Well, I went over to GATA because Chris Powell published an article yesterday about a new market that's opening in India. And the Indian government is working with the World Gold Council, and they're going to put together a local spot price market for India. It says we are working on a gold exchange for India, and the finance ministry has formed a gold committee, and the committee has taken this as one of the things to do. And the goal supposedly is to bring order and structure to the market. And it is not going to be a gold exchange like you see here with bullion banks backing liquidity. It's going to be very different. It sounds shady.
Well, it's the World Gold Council. Yeah,
exactly.
All you got to do is tell me it's the World Gold Council's involved, and it's shady.
Well, but when I went to get that article to look at it, to bring that to the table, because that's a new scheme coming out of India involving the gold market and trying to strip the citizens of their gold, or to keep them away from gold. It just sounds like a scheme to me. But he published just a few minutes ago Zimbabwe contemplates restoring its own currency with gold backing. And this is from a Zimbabwe paper called the Herald. And this is the opening line. The government is working on a plan to establish a gold reserve to anchor the introduction of a local currency when the right time comes for the return to the Zimbabwe dollar. It has been learned. This comes at a time when the currency is grappling with cash shortages, and economists believe that the issuance of a gold-backed local currency would help stimulate economic activity, modeled around the $200 million Afreximbank facility, which is backing the current bond notes in circulation. The local currency, economists believe, will ease liquidity challenges and stimulate aggregate demand. If Zimbabwe comes out with a gold-backed currency, I mean, that would be huge, wouldn't it? I mean, that would change everything.
It sounds like the government's setting itself up to be attacked by the United States.
Well, there is that. Yeah.
Zimbabwe's posing a threat to our national security.
Yes.
We got to send troops over there.
Yeah, they should just put a big neon sign out front that says "Place bomb here."
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's interesting because you got on the one hand, the Western elitists are trying to attack India's population and their gold buying, and that this latest exchange sounds like that type of scheme. Since getting rid of the most commonly used currency denominations didn't work, and India is importing gold now at probably 3 times the rate at which they were importing gold a year ago. And now you've got Zimbabwe realizing that the way back to credibility is to introduce a gold-backed currency. So it'll be interesting to see how that develops and what happens. It'll also be interesting to see if the U.S. government comes up with a reason that they have to get rid of Zimbabwe's leader, whatever they refer to him as, prime minister or president. I have no idea.
Yeah, I overlooked the most important line, which is a comment from Chris Powell on that Zimbabwe gold-backed currency. And this is the very first sentence. I'm going to read the headline, then read his comment. It says, Zimbabwe contemplates restoring its own currency with gold backing. And Chris's comment, at least until the International Monetary Fund finds out.
There you go. The World Gold Council will work with them to set up a gold exchange.
Exactly. Oh, my goodness. Yes, as the CIA determines who the new puppet will be.
Right.
Oh,
well, I think what we can draw from all this, we'll cast aside the India thing, but this new Hong Kong futures exchange physically settled gold contract, plus what Zimbabwe is doing, plus what you mentioned about Mexico and the initiatives being taken there to potentially join the BRICS, is that it seems like the world, the insular EU and United States community, it seems like the rest of the world is shifting toward a currency system that's going to have gold as the foundation.
Yeah, Andy Hoffman seems to think that there will never be another gold standard, but that there could be a gold settlement at the global level. I mean, what do you think? I mean, do you think, and what the way that came about is I asked him because it's obvious that gold is coming back into the monetary system. I mean, to me, it's pretty obvious. But I mean, do you think that once all this dust settles, that you and I will be able to use gold and silver as exchange?
Well, I've never been one to accuse Andy of thinking outside the box, but having said that, honestly, my honest opinion is that the United States will foment World War III before it ever lets a gold standard get reinstated. Because if that were to happen, then the truth would be revealed about what's really going on with all the fraud and corruption in the United States with regard to the alleged gold that's in Fort Knox, etc. It would just expose everything all at once. And historically, this is how wars get started. And I think, before we ever get a chance to test out whether or not a new gold standard will emerge, we'll be at war with the rest of the world. I mean, we already are halfway there.
At least halfway.
Right, exactly. Call it 3/4 of the way. So
yeah,
I'm not really too worried about whether or not there's going to be a global gold standard down the road. I want to see what happens between then and now. And I don't think it's going to be pretty.
Yeah, I mean, all these new gold markets coming online, I mean, it just says that something has to change. I mean, these guys, they're not, as I've said 100 times before, they're not acquiring all this gold. They're not opening these markets. They're not doing the things with gold that they're doing in order to produce more gold pandas or more gold trinkets. That's not the goal, period. I mean, they're doing this in order to have gold as part of the monetary system. Whether that includes the West or not, don't know. But, I mean, I don't see how they could isolate the West in that way. But with everything that's going on with China in particular, especially with the One Belt, One Road, the new Silk Road, whatever you want to call it, I mean, all of that, they're making headway outside of the West, and they have all but said, we don't care about your markets anymore. I mean, they haven't said exactly that, but they've kind of alluded to it, that we don't really need you anymore to supply our manufacturing or, any goods or services. We just don't need it. We've got our own stuff to take care of, and it's going to generate everything that we need. I mean, are they going to bring gold back? Kind of sounds like it. I mean, why else would you have Moscow, Beijing, and Dubai all tied to the Shanghai Gold Exchange that sets a global price for gold in renminbi, yuan? I mean, they already have that.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I think we ought to wrap this up this week. I think call it a wrap. What do you think?
Call it a wrap? It's a wrap. I don't know what kind of wrap, but it is.
I gotta, instead of worrying about these markets, I gotta figure out a way to get outside and enjoy the beautiful day here in Denver. Well, not a cloud in the sky.
That's what's going on here as well. So I'll follow your lead there, Dave, and get out in it myself.
It sounds good.
Oh, and I've got, just to let everybody know, I've got an interview coming up later today with Jeff Brown, and we're going to be covering what's going on, what's just happened with the One Belt, One Road, and I'll be releasing that tomorrow. You got anything on your agenda, Dave?
Just fighting criminals.
Fighting criminals. Well, that's a full-time job. Oh, well, I guess we'll pick it up on Friday and see where we stand.
Sounds good.
All right, buddy. Have a good one.
You too.